It was a rainy Tuesday morning in downtown Chicago, the kind of gray that soaked through your coat and into your bones. I stepped into the mirrored elevator of the 27-story glass tower on Wacker Drive, coffee in hand, tie slightly crooked. 17 years of this routine, and yet something felt off. "Morning, Alex." Our receptionist smiled weakly as I passed. Her eyes lingered on me, just a second too long. Upstairs, the usual hum of productivity greeted me. The clack of keyboards, the low murmur of conference calls, the occasional burst of forced laughter from sales. I took my seat by the window, overlooking the city I'd helped this company conquer. My inbox was unusually empty. Then the message popped up. Meeting at 10 a.m., boardroom B mandatory. No subject, no reason. I assumed it was about the upcoming restructuring. I'd survived those before. But when I walked into that cold, glass-walled room and saw HR seated across from our CFO, my stomach dropped. There was no handshake, no eye contact. Just a sealed envelope and 5 words that would end it all. "You earn too much, Alex." My badge was deactivated before I even left the boardroom. HR escorted me back to my desk, not speaking. My co-workers avoided my gaze, their eyes flicking between screens and phones like nothing was happening. I packed in silence, family photos, an old mug that said "Na One Dad," and a gold pen I'd received on my 10th work anniversary. The office felt suddenly alien, like I'd walked into someone else's life. "Alex, wait." It was Maya, one of the junior analysts I'd mentored. She looked like she'd just seen a ghost. "Is it true?" I nodded, jaw clenched. She whispered, "But you were the company. Everyone knew that." That night I sat at my kitchen table, blinds half drawn, replaying every late night, every missed birthday, every moment I'd chosen this company over myself. My daughter's watercolor drawing, Daddy's office, hung on the fridge like an accusation. Then my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "They did the same thing to me. We need to talk." Jason Michaels, my old boss, fired 3 years ago. Vanished without a word. Jason's message shook me more than I wanted to admit. He'd been a legend, sharp, respected, untouchable. When he disappeared, there were rumors. Burnout, early retirement, a cushy competitor buyout. No one really knew. I responded hesitantly. "Talk? About what?" Within minutes, a reply. "Meet me at Café Colombe, Wicker Park, noon tomorrow. It's bigger than you think." I barely slept. My mind spun with memories and questions. Was this a coincidence, or had we both been targeted? The next day I stepped into the cafe, its warm smell of espresso and aged wood grounding me in the now. Jason sat at the back corner, older but sharper. His eyes scanned the room like a man used to being hunted. "You're not the first, Alex," he said, sliding a folder across the table. "And you won't be the last, but you might be the one who can change everything." Inside the folder were names, dates, salaries, termination letters, and at the very bottom, my name, typed months before I was fired. I flipped through the folder, fingers trembling. There were at least 20 names. Some I recognized, others I didn't. High performers, long-timers. Each had the same pattern. Glowing reviews, consistent promotions. Then, suddenly, termination. Always for budget reasons. Jason leaned in. "They've been purging senior staff to hire cheaper replacements. You're not a liability, Alex. You're a line item." I stared at the papers, heart thudding. This wasn't just about me. It was systemic, strategic, cold. "But why keep it quiet?" I asked. "Why not just say it's restructuring?" "They don't want lawsuits or bad press," Jason said. "So they isolate you, make you feel like you're the only one." His voice lowered. "That folder? I've been collecting stories for years. People talk. Once they realize they're not alone. I've been waiting for someone like you, someone who still has a voice." I glanced around. The cafe buzzed with oblivious chatter. But inside me, something shifted. The betrayal hadn't just ended my career. It had ignited something deeper, a need for truth, for justice. All right, I said, swallowing the lump in my throat. What do we do? Jason smiled, tight, knowing. We build a network, a platform. Give them a place to speak out. He pulled out a sleek tablet and opened a site, unboxedvoices.org, a digital sanctuary for the silenced, anonymous stories, data, legal resources, even a map of terminations by location and industry. You built this? I asked. Started it, but it's nothing without momentum. That's where you come in. I hesitated. I'm not an activist. I'm a middle manager with a mortgage and a college-bound kid. Jason's gaze softened. You're a man who lost 17 years to a lie. Don't let them take your silence too. That night, I sat in my garage-turned-home office, staring at a blank postbox on Unboxed Voices. I typed, erased, typed again. Finally, I was loyal. I was successful. I was expendable. This is my story. I hit publish. By morning, it had over 8,000 views, dozens of comments, and one message that stopped my breath cold. They did it to my wife. Let me help. CR, employment lawyer. By the end of the week, the site had gone viral. Stories poured in from across the country, Texas, Oregon, New Jersey, employees from banks, law firms, hospitals. Some stories were heartbreaking, others furious, but all had one thing in common: silence. Until now. I met with CR, whose real name was Claire Richardson, over lunch at the Adler Planetarium Cafe, chosen for its quiet view of the lake and downtown skyline. I've been waiting for something like this, she said. The law protects whistleblowers, but few want to be the first to speak. Your story broke that dam. She offered pro bono legal support to victims who wanted to challenge their employers. We can't sue them all, she said, but we can make noise, scare them. Back home, I watched the news flicker across my laptop screen. A local anchor read a headline I never thought I'd hear. Fired for earning too much? Chicago man's story sparks national outrage. I exhaled. My hands trembled. I'd lit the match. But I hadn't seen the storm coming. Because 2 days later, I found a letter taped to my front door. No more stories. Stay quiet. I stared at the letter taped to my door. No envelope, just plain white paper, block letters printed like a ransom note. No more stories. Stay quiet. A chill crawled down my spine. I scanned the street, empty, except for a silver SUV parked across from my house, tinted windows, engine idling. I approached slowly, phone ready in hand. As soon as I raised it, the SUV sped off, no plates. Back inside, I bolted the door and shut every curtain. My daughter Emma peeked from the hallway. Daddy, what's wrong? I forced a smile. Nothing, sweetie. Just a grown-up thing. But I couldn't sleep that night. The idea that someone was watching, that I'd poked something bigger than corporate layoffs, gnawed at me. I messaged Jason. They're trying to scare me. He replied instantly. Then we're doing it right. Claire wasn't as calm. She insisted we start documenting everything. Messages, suspicious vehicles, threats. We need to treat this like a case, she said, because it just became one. But it wasn't just fear that kept me up. It was something else, excitement. If they were scared enough to threaten me, we were finally hitting a nerve. 2 weeks later, Unboxed Voices was front-page news. Major outlets picked up the movement. Hashtags trended. Anonymous employees flooded the site with stories, one from inside my old company. The post read, "They're erasing records. HR is shredding files. Managers are being told to tighten filters on hiring and salaries. I can't stay silent anymore." Jason forwarded it to me with a one-line note. "We've got a whistleblower." Claire arranged a secure call. The whistleblower was nervous, voice trembling through a voice modulator. "They planned your exit 6 months out. You weren't the only one. They call it Operation Renew, targeting anyone over a certain salary and age." I sat in stunned silence. "Why me first?" "You were too visible. If you protested, others might not." I felt sick, but beneath the nausea was clarity. We had proof. Jason's voice buzzed with urgency. If we get them to testify publicly, Claire finished his thought, it'll change everything. But just as momentum built, the whistleblower went dark. No messages, no login, no trace. And then a new message arrived on the site's admin panel. He's gone, you're next. The message rattled me more than I wanted to admit. He's gone. The words looped in my head like a threat and a warning all at once. Jason suggested lying low, but Claire disagreed. If we retreat now, they win. We go louder. So I did. I booked a spot at a public forum, Chicago's City Voices, held at the Harold Washington Library, a gathering of speakers, thinkers, and advocates. When I stepped onto the stage, the lights blinded me. Cameras pointed like eyes. My voice cracked at first, but I found rhythm in the truth. I gave 17 years to a company that threw me out like old furniture. But I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for every single person who's been quietly erased for costing too much. Applause erupted. The moment felt surreal, vindicating, empowering. Afterward, a woman approached me, late 50s, smart suit, sad eyes. I knew your name sounded familiar, she said. I hired you back in 2006. I blinked. Sandra? From HR? She nodded slowly. They tried to push me out too. I took the severance and ran. Then she whispered, but I still have access to their backup files. Sandra's words echoed in my ears. I still have access. We met in the quiet corner of a public co-working space in Lincoln Park. She brought a plain black laptop and an old company-issued flash drive, worn around the edges. I wasn't supposed to keep this, she admitted. But I couldn't walk away completely. I had to keep something, just in case. She opened the drive. Years of files loaded slowly. Old payroll spreadsheets, HR memos, internal termination strategy documents. Buried deep was a folder marked Renew Protocol. Jason leaned over my shoulder as Sandra clicked it open. Inside, detailed profiles of employees flagged for termination, color-coded by salary bracket, department, and risk level. And then photos, faces, mine included. Notes scribbled in marginless PDFs. Influential. Will resist. Must act quickly. Claire couldn't believe what she was seeing. This is illegal. It's discrimination, patterned and deliberate. If we leak this... We don't leak it, I said. We broadcast it. We backed up everything 3 times and encrypted it. But just before Sandra left, she hesitated. There's one more name, she whispered. Someone high up, helping us secretly. She handed me a sticky note, a name scribbled in shaky pen. I froze. It was someone I once trusted with my life. The name on the note was Daniel Crane, my former mentor, VP of Operations, the man who taught me how to lead. He was still at the company, untouched, respected. I hadn't spoken to him since my firing. I remembered the last text he'd sent weeks ago. Heard the news. I'm sorry. Was he the ally Sandra spoke of, or the architect of it all? Jason was skeptical. He's still there, still cashing the checks. Claire leaned forward. But if he's leaking from inside, we need him. I called Daniel that night. I know what's happening, I said. I have files, names, your name. There was a pause, then, meet me, just us. Tomorrow night, Navy Pier. The next evening, I walked past the glowing Ferris wheel to a bench near the water. Daniel was already there, collar up against the wind. He looked older, tired. I tried to warn them, he said softly. Told them purging loyal staff would backfire. You were part of it, I said. He looked away. I was, until I realized the game. They were never going to stop, so I started documenting, sending files anonymously. Then he handed me a folder. This is everything they planned for Q4, including the next names. I opened it. The first name on the list? Claire Richardson. I rushed to call Claire, heart pounding. You're on the next list. She was quiet. I knew I'd made enemies. I just didn't know how fast they'd come. Daniel's documents were damning. active plans to file bar complaints, smear campaigns, and investigate her pro bono work under a false ethics probe. They're weaponizing the system, Claire said. If they take me down, the whole legal foundation crumbles. Jason was furious. We go public, everything all at once, no more slow plays. But Daniel stopped us. Wait, one final file. I'm getting it tomorrow. The key. What key? I asked. He looked at me, eyes filled with something close to fear. Proof that this goes beyond your company. It's a network, coordinated, across industries. CEOs sharing blacklists of expensive liabilities. My hands went cold. This wasn't just about revenge. This was bigger. We're talking about a silent purge, Daniel said, of thousands, maybe more. And then his phone buzzed. He read the message and paled. They know I talked to you. We all went silent. And in the dark reflection of the cafe window, I saw it. A black SUV parked outside, engine idling, again. The black SUV didn't move, just sat there, engine humming like a warning. Daniel's hands trembled as he slid his phone into his coat. We need to leave. Now. Claire stuffed the folder into her tote. Jason grabbed his backpack, already pulling out his phone to alert a contact at the Tribune. If anything happens to us tonight, they'll know. We slipped out the side door of the cafe, through the alley behind, where the sharp scent of wet concrete and trash clung to the air. Every step felt like it echoed too loud. As we rounded the corner, a second SUV turned down the street. No headlights, just the glint of chrome under the street lamps. Daniel muttered. I parked by the old train yard, 3 blocks. We ran. Not fast enough. The SUV behind us revved and inched forward. Jason shouted, Split up! They won't follow all of us. Claire and Daniel peeled left. I darted into the shadows behind an abandoned warehouse. My breath thundered in my ears. Then I heard it. Tires screeching. A door slam. And a scream. Claire's. I turned back, instincts battling fear. This wasn't just a corporate cover-up anymore. Someone was ready to hurt us. Claire was gone. By the time I circled back to the intersection, the SUVs had vanished. Daniel stumbled from behind a dumpster, his coat torn, face bloodied. They grabbed her, threw her in the back. I helped him sit on the curb, heart pounding like a war drum. What did they want? She screamed your name, he said, his voice cracking. They wanted you. We filed a report. Useless. No license plates, no witnesses, no CCTV in that stretch. Jason called every hospital, every contact, nothing. Claire had disappeared into thin air. The next morning I received an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp. Just a single typed page. You were warned. You kept talking. Now others pay. Jason paced the room. We have to expose everything, even if it puts us at risk. Daniel nodded. They'll come for me next. I need to get that last file before they shut it all down. I clenched the note in my fist. Then we hit them first. But as I opened my laptop to post our next update, the screen blinked, then died. Black. Jason looked up from his phone. The site's down, servers wiped. We had nothing left, except one backup drive and one last chance. We retreated to the safest place we could think of, my parents' old cabin in Wisconsin. No Wi-Fi, no eyes, just the hiss of wind through pine and the ticking of a wall clock. Daniel placed the backup drive on the wooden dining table like it was a relic. This is everything. Emails, signed directives, legal memos between execs. I connected it to an offline laptop Claire had once configured for secure work. It booted slowly, like it knew what it carried. There, nestled deep within nested folders, was the final file. Cascade, Index, Zip. Daniel whispered. Cascade was the original name of the blacklist. Inside, hundreds of names, not just from my company, others. Retail giants, tech startups, even a nonprofit. Notes beside each one. Too old, too expensive, too vocal. Claire was listed too. Flagged, legal threat, high alert. Jason leaned back, stunned,
We have it all. Now we burn the whole thing down. But just as I nodded, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. A grainy photo of Claire, eyes swollen, duct tape over her mouth. Drop the files, or she disappears forever.
My hands shook as I read the message again. Claire, bound, terrified. The photo burned into my mind like a scar. Jason saw it over my shoulder and went pale. Daniel whispered, "They're bluffing. They wouldn't dare." "No," I said. "They would." Jason slammed the table. "We have everything they're trying to hide. If we go public now, we could save Claire and take them down in one strike." But my gut twisted. These people didn't play by rules. This wasn't a PR crisis. It was a war. Daniel rubbed his temples. "If we upload the files, she's gone. If we don't, they win." Silence. Just the wind battering the windows. I stood up, walked outside into the freezing air, stars barely visible through the thick clouds. My breath fogged as I stared into the forest. I remembered Claire's words months ago. Sometimes the fight is worth the cost, even if it breaks you. But she never said it should cost her. I turned back inside. "We'll buy time. Pretend we're complying," Jason frowned. "Then what?" I looked at Daniel. "Then we stage a rescue and bring them all down after. Because this time, they crossed a line they'll never come back from." Chapter 17. Into the lion's den. We needed help, and we knew exactly where to go. Jason called a friend, a former military intel analyst turned security consultant. Her name was Riva, sharp, calm, unforgiving. She met us in Milwaukee, tall and dressed in gray, with eyes like steel. After studying the photo, she nodded once. "Looks like a storage unit. I can triangulate based on shadows and soil." In less than 4 hours, she narrowed it down to a facility just outside Joliet, Illinois. Private property, no cameras, no digital records. Daniel pulled the satellite map onto the cabin wall. "We hit it tonight. Quiet. Fast." I hesitated. "If they catch us," Riva cut in. "They won't." We drove down in 2 cars, parked half a mile out. Walked the rest under cover of night. The unit was there, number 47B, half rusted, half hidden behind a line of trailers. Riva picked the lock in seconds. Inside, dim light flickered from a single bulb. And there she was, Claire, gagged, tied to a chair. She looked up, eyes wide with disbelief. We rushed in. Daniel started cutting the rope. Then, click, behind us, a man stood in the doorway. "I warned you," he said coldly. Gun raised. Time slowed. The man in the doorway, tall, hooded, eyes cold as ice, held us all in his grip. "I told you to walk away," he said, voice like gravel. "But you couldn't stop." Riva didn't blink. "3 steps closer and I break your wrist before you pull that trigger." He didn't move, just smiled. "Do it, and she dies anyway." Then, 2 things happened at once. Jason lunged, grabbing a wrench from the floor. At the same moment, Claire kicked her chair backwards, throwing the man's aim off just as he fired. The shot went wide. Riva surged forward, disarming him with a brutal twist. He screamed, gun clattering to the floor. Daniel rushed to cover the door. Claire gasped for air as I tore the gag from her mouth. "We have to go. Now!" But not before grabbing the man's phone. Riva scanned it quickly. He's not alone. They were watching from outside. We jumped into the SUV, tires screeching out of the lot as headlights appeared in the rear view. Claire clutched my hand. "They'll never stop, will they?" "No," I said. "But neither will we." And when we finally uploaded the files from the drive that night, everything changed. The blacklist, the names, the proof. We didn't just expose them. We burned the whole machine down. The end. Thank you for joining this emotional, dangerous, and inspiring journey. If you felt every twist, every truth, and every betrayal, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. What would you have done in Alex's place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. More true life-inspired stories coming soon.